The New York Islanders give a valiant effort, but come up short in a 5-4 overtime loss to the Avalanche. We'll talk about the latest injury news as two players left the game early. Plus, we have our weekly farm report. All that and a lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. We have got a lot to get to on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and hey, it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. What a frustrating loss this was for the New York Islanders. And, you could look at it from the glass is half full perspective or the glass is half empty perspective. If you want to do the glass is half full view, you could say the New York Islanders went into Denver on the road against one of the elite and most talented teams in hockey, and they earned a point in spite of the fact that they were, for the most part, badly outplayed in this game. And they overcame a couple of injuries, which we will talk about a little bit later on in the show, and still managed to hold on. That they showed a little bit of resilience. Some individual players that we'll get to showed a little bit of resilience, and that the Islanders were able to make a game out of this. If you're looking at this from the glass is half empty, the Islanders held leads of 1-0, 2-1, 3-1, 4-3, and could not quite close the deal. Took a couple of bad penalties that, the calls may have indeed been a little more than a little questionable, but penalty kill, still a big problem. Holding leads, still a big problem. And just sort of the taking penalties because you're chasing people, because your team has a little trouble keeping up with the skill and speed of the opposing team. Yeah, that is a recurring theme as well. So there's the good and the bad with this particular performance. Things started off really solid because who scores the first goal? Pierre Engvall. And, you go to the beginning of this game and again, Matt Martin back on the bench. You have Engvall back in the lineup. You have Hudson Fasching back on the fourth line. And then on defense, Robert Bortuzzo in, Sebastian Aho out. He was a healthy scratch. And then it's, again, Engvall getting the goal to get things started early on in the game. Very good to see him respond in that way to being benched in the last game. But, again, I have to say this, and I mean this not at all as an insult to Alexander Georgiev, but he did not play a particularly good game. Georgiev let in 4 goals on 22 shots. That is an .818 save percentage. Some of those goals were pretty soft and goals that most goalies would save. And if Alexander Georgiev played an average game, the Islanders would most likely lose in regulation. So, that to me was discouraging. But at the same time, the Islanders gave a good effort and were able to at least get a point in this game. And seeing the Nelson, Palmieri, Engvall line get back on track with Nelson scoring on the power play, but Engvall getting a goal, that was certainly good to see. But again, you know what it is? A lot of the things this team did well all season, they did okay in this game. But a lot of the problems that they've had all season came back to haunt them in this game. And again, I think maybe the result was typical, the overtime loss. Here we are, at this point in the season, and the Islanders, who picked up a point in this game, are now 17 wins, 10 losses, and 10 overtime or shootout losses. So ahead of the Flyers, you gain a point in the standings, but just the inconsistency of this team in certain aspects of the game continues to haunt this club, and it's just plain frustrating to watch. As far as a hero and a GOAT of the game, tough, but I'm going to go with Brock Nelson as the hero. He had a goal and an assist, so the 2-point night leads all Islanders players. I think his goal was one of the prettier goals of the game, and I give him credit for that. So to me, Brock Nelson is the hero of the game. Go to the game. Tough one, but I'm going to give it to Scott Mayfield, -2 in this game, 4 penalty minutes in this game, including the holding call that gave the Avalanche a power play with 22 seconds left in regulation. It carried on into overtime and ended up sinking the Islanders. By the way, 20 seconds left in this game, and Nichushkin splits the defense. That's the call against Mayfield. No way that should have happened, but what a skilled play by Valeri Nichushkin, who had 2 goals. And also, how good is Nathan MacKinnon? Getting to watch him tonight, a goal, 2 assists, 7 shots on goal, and then Cale Makar, 3 assists in this one. The Avalanche's best players came through offensively, even if the Avalanche's goaltending kept the Islanders in this hockey game. And the Islanders' scrappiness, to an extent, kept them in as well. We have got a lot more to discuss on today's show. Couple of more players leaving this game early. We'll talk about that and what it might mean for the New York Islanders going forward. It could be definitely an issue, so we'll talk about that. Plus, for our Islanders birthday of the day, a player who was with the Islanders for 1 season in the early 2010s, but had over 300 penalty minutes in that season. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and a lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And the app is so easy to use. There are so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays. You could find bets in the new Explore tab, or you can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. That's the best way to find the most popular parlays and a whole lot more. And look, it's not just the NFL. You can bet on college football, the NBA, college basketball, or you could use your knowledge of the Islanders and the NHL on FanDuel as well. Check out the odds for the Islanders and Coyotes on Thursday. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to make your first bet a layup. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of the NHL. So, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Injuries. They're back. And this team has been dealing with a lot of them. And just as they start to get a little healthy, more injuries coming down the pike. The first one came around the 15-minute mark of the first period, 14:52 in to be exact. Semyon Varlamov starting in goal against one of his former teams. What happens? He ends up getting injured, leaves the game. Ilya Sorokin comes in and replaces him. And look, Varley has played well all season. We know he was not the backup goalie a couple of games ago that the Islanders had to recall Ken Appleby from Bridgeport in order to be the backup for that game. Now, since Varlamov left and did not return, the question becomes, will Varley be missing significant time, or was this just a precaution to keep him out of the rest of the game? We also know that the effect of these injuries could be significant because, number one, the Islanders goaltenders face more shots than any other team's goalies except the San Jose Sharks. In fact, 39 shots allowed by the Islanders in last night's game against Colorado. And you don't want Ilya Sorokin to be worn out by having to play every game or nearly every game when you don't have confidence in your backups. And if you look at Bridgeport right now, the two goaltending possibilities are Jakub Skarek, who has struggled, and we will have our weekly farm report a little bit later on in the show. But Skarek has not played well down in Bridgeport. And then you have Ken Appleby. Well, Appleby and Skarek, between them, they have not played a lot of games in the NHL. Appleby, in his career, one start, and that's it. One start back in 2017, 2018 with the Devils. Played well, lost the game, but in 3 appearances in the NHL, he's, more than held his own with a 4-5 goals against and a .945 save percentage. But again, that is a very small sample size. And again, Jakub Skarek yet to appear in an NHL game. He's been a backup, but he has never been in an actual NHL game. So I don't know how confident Lane Lambert and or Lou Lamoriello would be in having either Appleby or Skarek play for the New York Islanders. And it does become an issue. And keep in mind that there is a game. The Islanders have a game Thursday night in Arizona. Bridgeport, unusual, but they have a Thursday night game this week. So if you're calling up a goalie, you're going to have Bridgeport call up a goalie from the East Coast League, the ECHL, and they would have to miss whoever you call up Thursday's game for the Bridgeport Islanders. But it is an issue, and you don't want to look. You can lose Varlamov for a couple of days, a week, whatever it may be, but you can't afford to lose him for more than that because it starts to take a toll on Sorokin. And if Sorokin is tired and not playing his best, this team can be in some real trouble. The other injury, Robert Bortuzzo left the game early. And that one, again, you like what Bortuzzo has done. He adds a little size. He adds a little toughness. He left after playing 8 minutes and 10 seconds, recorded 2 block shots and a hit. But at least on defense, you have more depth. I mean, Sebastian Aho was a healthy scratch in this game. He can step right into the lineup. Hopefully, Adam Pelech is close to returning. So I don't want to lose Bortuzzo. I think he adds depth. He adds a specific skill set that this team really needs, especially as long as either Pelech or Polak are out of the lineup. But bottom line is that the Islanders don't want to lose Bortuzzo for a significant amount of time either, but it is more dangerous because of the lack of depth in the organization in goal to lose Semyon Varlamov for an extended period of time than it is for Robert Bortuzzo. So hopefully neither one of these injuries is all that serious. I think we see Sebastian Aho back in the lineup with the other 5 defensemen who played: Bolduc, Riley, Mayfield, Romanov, and Dobson. If Bortuzzo is unable to go and Pelech is not ready to come back yet, remember, he did travel with the team, but it'll be trickier to try to replace Varlamov in goal because the Islanders have no proven like last year, you could have said, okay, we call up Corey Schneider. And, he's a guy with a lot of NHL experience who, for a game or two, you don't mind calling him up. But would you feel comfortable, Islander fans, starting either Jakub Skarek or Ken Appleby in goal the way this team is giving up shots and the way, this team has played this year? And thinking about the long-term effect of tiring out Sorokin, if that happens. So hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully neither one of these injuries is serious. We will, of course, keep you up to date on X or Twitter and on tomorrow's podcast. So make sure you join us for that. And again, just got to hope that these injuries do not continue to compile for this team. The additions of Riley and Bortuzzo give them more depth on the blue line despite all the injuries, but you can't afford to have injury after injury. And in goal, there is precious little margin for error. All right, we have got a lot more to discuss on today's show. We will have our weekly farm report as we talk all things Bridgeport Islanders, plus our Islanders birthday of the day, all that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets for your next big event. I mean, Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. My favorite feature on Gametime is that you can go on the app and see the view from your seat before you buy the tickets, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And Gametime has deals on tickets not only right up to the start of the event, but even an hour after it starts. It is the place to find last-minute seats. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to the Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Time now for our weekly farm report, which we do almost every Wednesday as we talk all things Bridgeport Islanders. And 2 games since we did our last farm report with mixed results for the Bridgeport Islanders. First last week, a 6-5 overtime win over the Springfield Thunderbirds. And this one was important. We had Otto Koivula with 4 assists, which tied a Bridgeport Islanders record. William Dufour getting 2 goals. Dennis Chalowski, a goal and 2 assists. 2 points also for Grant Hutton. He had a goal and an assist. But the Islanders get the game-winning breakaway goal, a between-the-legs score by Ruslan Ishkakov, who continues to be the best weapon on Bridgeport this season offensively. Henrik Tikkanen, by the way, was in goal, made 29 saves, including 3 biggies in OT to help Bridgeport get the win. But the next night, the Islanders hosting the Hartford Wolfpack and end up losing that game 3-2. A power play goal by Samuel Asselin early on gets the Islanders on the board. Ishkakov scores again on a deflection of a Seth Helgeson goal. Ken Appleby, 22 saves, but it wasn't enough as Hartford rallies. Islanders were up 2-0 after the first period and then gave up 3 to fall 3-2. So a split over the weekend for the Bridgeport Islanders. As far as scoring is concerned, Ishkakov, 24 points, leads the team. 10 goals leads the team. 14 assists ties him with Chalowski for the team lead in that category. Chalowski now second on the team with 18 points. Otto Koivula and Kyle McLean with 17 points each, both of them with 6 goals and 11 assists. Robin Salo kind of climbing up the ranks there with 12 points. Brian Pino with 13. William Dufour, 6 goals, 10 points now in 18 games. He is starting to, find his offensive touch a little bit more. Goaltending, though, Skarek, a 3.51 goals against, an 8.77 save percentage. Those are not good numbers at the AHL level. Appleby, a 2.88 goals against and an 8.97 save percentage. Let's see, again, if they need to call somebody up, who that somebody would be. In the standings, Bridgeport still a distant 8th in the AHL's Atlantic Division. They are 9-18-2 in 29 games. That's 11 points behind Lehigh Valley, who is in 7th, although the Islanders do have 2 games in hand on the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. So again, the Bridgeport Islanders continuing to struggle this year. 3 games coming up, though, before we have our next farm report Thursday. That is tomorrow. The Islanders will host the Hartford Wolfpack in a rematch of last weekend's games. And then that's a 7 o'clock Eastern time start. And then Saturday, 7 o'clock Eastern time, again against the Charlotte Checkers. Sunday, the Checkers come back for a 3 o'clock matinee against the Bridgeport Islanders. So if you want to catch some of the Islanders prospects in action before they become Islanders, head on up to Bridgeport for the game, or you could watch them all on AHL TV. So big weekend ahead for the Bridgeport Islanders, hoping they can start gaining some ground back in the standings as they continue to struggle through a difficult season. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And basically yesterday was the 43rd birthday of former Islanders center Zenon Konopka, the Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario native, 6 foot, 213 pounds. But boy, was he a bruiser. He was not afraid to mix it up with anyone. Started his NHL career with the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. He was not drafted. Played for the Blue Jackets, the Lightning, and then joined the Islanders in 2010-2011. Played in all 82 games, 2 goals, 9 points, and 307 penalty minutes. The following year was with Ottawa, then Minnesota for 1.5 years, and then finished his NHL career with the Buffalo Sabres. 346 career NHL games for Konopka, 12 goals, 30 points, and 1,082 penalty minutes. Add in 8 playoff games, 6 with Ottawa, 2 with Minnesota. He had 2 assists and 2 penalty minutes in those games. For Konopka, one of his better games as an Islander, March 8th, 2011, the Islanders hosting the Maple Leafs at the Old Barn, the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. James Reimer, the goalie for Toronto. Il Cubano, Al Montoya, the goalie for the Islanders. And Zenon Konopka got the Islanders on the board 2 minutes and 15 seconds into the second period. Milan Ursina and Justin De Benedetto with the assists. This game went into overtime, and the Islanders won it in OT on a goal by Blake Como. But for Zenon Konopka, our Islanders' birthday of the day, he scores a goal. He had that goal at even strength, and he had 2 shots on goal in just 7 minutes and 33 seconds of ice time. Zenon Konopka, a tough customer. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow on the show, we will preview Thursday's game against the Arizona Coyotes as this road trip continues, and hopefully we'll also have some injury updates for you on Semyon Varlamov, on Robert Bortuzzo, on Adam Pelech, and everybody else who is dealing with some injuries in this Islanders lineup. So hopefully we'll get some good news that neither of those injuries are serious, but kind of some rough going right now on the injury front for the New York Islanders. Until then, stay safe, everybody. Have a great day. And of course, let's go Islanders.